All right, let's see. We're in business. So we're good. Okay, so today we got a deal in 35020 that we're looking just on the market, right? Just exploring the Birmingham market a little bit more. So now we got in Birmingham, we got this property. Just looked up a four-bedroom home listed for 159,900 bucks. 1520 Third Ave in Bessemer, Alabama, 35020. And then this property looks relatively turnkey. It looks like they just put in all the flooring. Yeah, I don't think there's any renovation needed for this property. It looks pretty nice for the most part. Kitchen looks brand new too, based on the photos. Okay, so for this deal, let's go ahead and analyze the deal. The first thing we're going to need is we are going to need the fair market rent. To get here, you first have to get the county. So let's look at what county this is in. This property is in Jefferson County, okay? So now I'm going to go Google HUD FMR, HUD FMR. FMR stands for fair market rents. Click on the first link, scroll down here. This link right here says access small area FMRs. Click on that. Click on FY 2024 small area FMRs, and now you're going to get by state, by county. This is Jefferson County. And now you're going to see by bedroom, by zip code, what the maximum rent is for a four bedroom. So this is going to be 1440, 1290 and 1440, 1290, 1440. All right. So now that you got these rents in here, I'm just going to note down all these numbers because my partners already know how I analyze deals. So when I put these numbers in here, they already know where the numbers come from. Okay. So now that I got my rent ceiling, I need to compare it against my market rent. Now, to do that, I have to go, copy my address, and now I'm going to go to affordablehousing.com. I'm going to go to the owner section. I'm going to go to the market rent estimator. I'm going to plug in the address, and I'm plugging in the bedroom count, four bedroom. And now the most important number here is going to be this number here on the bottom right. It says that for 25 units within a 2.6 mile radius, the average rent is $13.73. $13.73. That's a 2 mile radius. I'll write down the rest of these numbers: 1930, 1440 for the city, and then 1314 for the zip. Okay. Now, even though the rent ceiling says 1440, the market rent is only 1375. Let's call it 1350. Doesn't matter what it is, close enough. 25 bucks shouldn't make or break your deal. You have to use a lower of the two because of this thing called the rent reasonableness, right? And the rent reasonable test is, I can show it to you right here. I'm pulling up the Housing Choice Voucher Guidebook. This is the HCV Housing Choice Voucher, which was previously known as Section 8. In this guidebook, in Section 2.2, there is a test called the rent reasonableness test. And it says that in conducting rent reasonableness, the PHA, or the Public Housing Authority, must determine whether the rent to the owner is a reasonable rent in comparison to rent for other comparable unassisted units. So obviously the size matters, the unit type matters. So single family homes and apartments are going to be different. But in this scenario, it's very unlikely that these 25 units within a 2.6 mile radius are, frankly, apartments, because people generally don't build four bedroom apartments. So that's why we're assuming that these are all single family homes. So because it's got to be reasonable rent, right? Obviously, 1440 includes utilities, so if you don't include utilities, it's got to be lower. But either way, 1375 is a lower number, so that's what you're most likely allowed to charge for rent on this property. So I'm going to use 1350 just to be a little bit conservative, right, just in case. And I'm going to plug in some of the numbers here. So this property is listed for 159,900, so I'm going to put that right in here in B4, 159,900. For my rehab, this property is 2,000 square feet. I'm going to assume that everything is actually okay on this property because it looks like it's been painted and everything. So I usually just set aside about a little bit of money. So in row 132, I got two toilets out. Change the high pressure flush toilet so I can avoid some clogged toilet calls. I don't need to paint, so I'm going to zero out row 86. I got $500 for landscaping. I got $1,500 for roof, just in case there's any issues with the roof, just in case. That's not reflected in the photo. So I got enough room in my renovation budget to cover any surprises. That's about $3,500. All right, so I got my rents right here, and now I'm gonna get my rest of my expenses. Okay, my property taxes, I'm gonna pull right from here. It says $46 for this area. Obviously, you got to verify it with your county's assessor, so make sure you do that. my monthly insurance is going to be 124 according to Redfin. So I'm going to do equals 124 and I'll multiply that by 1.2. I'm adding a 20% premium to build myself a little hedge, but more importantly, it's because whenever you are renting out a home as an investment property versus a prime residence, it usually costs a little bit more because insurance companies view it as a little bit more risky. So that's why I'm adding a 20% premium by taking the $124 insurance estimate on Redfin's payment calculator and multiply by 1.2. Obviously, before you close it, you got to decide whether or not it's worth your time. And in order to do that, before you even get to that step, you got to figure out whether or not it's on the cash flow. But in this scenario, we're just assuming it's going to be 20% more. Obviously, we'll get insurance, blah, blah, blah. But again, 20 bucks, 50 bucks really shouldn't make or break your deal. All right, so now I got 10% from my property, from my maintenance. So this is money I set aside every single month for anticipated repairs, meaning the HVAC might break one day, the roof might break one day. So you got to put in all these items in there for you to make sure that it works, okay? I got 10% for property management. I got 5% for vacancy. So now I feel pretty good that I'm setting aside money every single month for expenses that I should expect to incur now or in the future, right? Such as a roof replacement or replacing my AC unit, which I'm doing on one of my houses right now, right? So if that is the case, now we're going to plug in the rest of these numbers. Our down payment is going to be 25%. So that equals my 25% down payment in E19 multiplied by my asking price in B4. And that's how I get to 40 grand roughly for my down payment E19. There's no assignment fee because it's not an off-market deal, it's an on-market deal. I have 2.5% for closing costs, 35 bucks for my renovations. And now to my financing piece, right? I don't have a secondary loan. So my primary loan is going to equals to my asking price in B4 minus my down payment, right? That's how much money I am financing for this deal. I'm going to put 8.25% from an interest rate right now for this deal. I'm going to assume this starts from 2024 so I can get some payments. So that calculates my payment right over here. So if I rent this property out at $1,350, right, as a 4-bedroom for $1,350, I will be negative cash flow $83 a month. That's a negative 2% return. All right, that's assuming I bought this property for 160 grand with a $35 rehab, 25% down, 8.25% interest rate. I'm writing down these scenarios because now I want you to figure out, okay, well, how do I make this a deal, right? Obviously, this is not investment advice. I'm not soliciting any investments on this call. I'm simply showing you all how to take your emotions out of the deal, but also to adjust the levers that it allows you to figure out what is a deal. So if I lower my asking price, so let's say 120 grand, look what happens to my cash on cash return. It just went from a 2% to a 4.7%. Now, if I lower my asking price even more, what do I need to lower it to in order to get a cash on cash return of 10%? All right, so now I'll go to 100 grand. Whoops, 100 grand, not 10 grand. Boom. So now all of a sudden at 9.9% roughly, at 100 grand, this might be a deal, right? For me personally. But this allows me to determine what my buy box is going in the future because, okay, I know that if I get a turnkey property in 35020, right, I can cash flow 254 bucks a month. That's a roughly 9.9% return as long as I can get a property for 100 grand. So now all of a sudden, right, you build that muscle in your brain to recognize the deal, right? If you ever see a property that's relatively turnkey for 100 grand, now all of a sudden that works, right? So this is how I would go about analyzing the deal. Now, let's say you got the deal locked up and all of a sudden you got somebody in there and they just put listed on a pig and there's a lot of these underlying issues with the sewer pipe and stuff like that. Let's say your rehab 5x. It went from 3 grand to 17,400. Now you're thinking, oh man, what am I going to do? Well, again, to take emotion out of the deal, right? You're still renting out as a 4-bedroom for $1,350, right? What do you need to lower the purchase price now, right? Your renovation 5x, so now it lowered the cash and cash return in E9 to 6.8. So now if you go 90 grand, what does that make? Okay, well you go 85 grand. Now you're back to 10%. So you can tell the seller, hey, I can no longer give you 100 grand. I can give you 85 grand because my rehab has now 5x to 17,400 instead of the original 3,500 that I renovated. I do this exercise so that you can understand how do you come up with a set of terms that works for you personally. And I'll do this even one more time. Let's say interest rates go down and you want to see what it does to your purchasing power. Let's say your interest rate now in the market is 7% instead of 8.25. Now all of a sudden instead of 85 grand, right? Which is, remember, our rehab is still 5x from the last scenario. If I turned into 7% interest rate, my cash and cash return just went to 11.58. So now what's the ceiling price? What's the new ceiling price I'm willing to pay for the property? Am I willing to pay 95 grand? Okay. 92 grand? There you go. So even though my rehab 5x, but now the market conditions are better, right? My rehab is still 17.4 grand. My down payment is still 25%. I have a 7% interest rate. Assuming I rent it out for a 4-bed 1350 again, holding that constant, I can still cash flow at 358, which still results in a 10.1% return if I can buy this property at 92%, $92,000. So that's how you adjust all the different levers to make a deal that works for you. Again, all I'm doing here today is helping you guys look at a real deal, right? This was a real deal on the market. I didn't make it up. This is literally for sale right now for you to get the practice in, right? If you guys want to copy the spreadsheet, again, I didn't make the spreadsheet from scratch. I got it from a few other folks, combined them, tweaked them so that it helps me underwrite my deal a lot faster. Just go to my website, affordablehousing.io, not .com, affordablehousing.io, put in your name, your email, your phone number, and this is how you get a free deal analysis tool. This is the same spreadsheet I use, and my hope is that you copy my homework today. Use the same deal, use the same spreadsheet, put it on your own YouTube channel. And that's how you build that track record so that you have confidence that you know what you're doing when the time comes for you to pull the trigger. All right. I hope you all have an amazing Thursday. I can't believe it's August already. I hope you guys have an amazing Thursday. I hope you guys spend some quality time with your family and friends today because that's what life is all about. All right. Have an amazing day. I'll be back here again tomorrow for day 307. Have a good one, everybody.